husband would come home and plead for me to get out of bed. And I couldn't, and I wouldn't, and I'd lay there, and I'd cry.
We get hurt. The response to hurt is that we get angry. We don't like it. Now, what happens if you don't feel safe or it's okay to express that anger? You turn it inward.
It was like being stuck. It was like there was nothing that could make me feel any better. Nothing made it feel better.
I think I struggled trying to put on a happy face and not really experience my feelings.
Well, I couldn't fix it. Men are fixers.
At home, she would snap. What was a beautiful woman and loving and kind would turn on you.
Don't delay. Go and get help. Go access the help that's there, because there's a lot of people that want to help you.
There's many times when I cry myself to sleep, and I wake up crying. I wake up depressed and just like there's no hope.
Some call it darkness. Some call it hopelessness. All feel helpless, helpless in their entire being. Happiness is a lost emotion. Even the desire to breathe, to want to be alive, is far gone. Depression to some is a word of simple sadness, the blues. To others, there are no words to describe the blackest, deepest feelings of absolute, utter despair. Many subjects are difficult to talk about for various reasons. Some subjects offend us, some shock us. Depression does none of these, but it is very difficult to talk about because it cuts to the very core of the soul. Many who are severely depressed don't even have the energy to talk about their pain or numbness. During this next hour, we will do exactly that, talk. For many in this video, that will be very difficult because they are still feeling deeply depressed, like Tammy.
And I needed her love so much.
She is still, at 35 years old, trying to get over the abusive words of her mother. She still replays in her head.
Randy was engaged 10 months ago until his fiancée left him.
Why should I? Why should I keep going? For what purpose?
Even after 10 months, Randy still hurts deeply.
Others we'll meet were depressed, but have come through on the other side. Their words will give us encouragement, like Marta.
It's the little girl that's depressed. So whenever I feel
Not too long ago, her husband begged her to get out of bed and face life, but she couldn't.
Bob is a church pastor. Depressed people are supposed to come to him for answers.
We didn't have a bad marriage, but when I knew
But he felt overwhelmed by his own feelings of failure.
Yeah.
And Claudia was so depressed, she committed herself to a hospital.
That hopeless feeling, that nothing motivated me, nothing
Now
cheered me
Claudia
up,
is here to
nothing
say depression,
fixed it.
for the most part,
That kind of
is in her past.
Did you ever feel like... We'll hear from doctors of psychology and therapists who will explain depression, its forms, and its treatments. And we'll hear from people of all ages who are facing depression. There will be tears and there will be laughter, all in the name of understanding depression. Those who are watching who are depressed right now will find out where they are and where they can go. and everyone will get valuable insight into understanding the depressed person.
Randy needed people close to him to understand. 10 months ago, he was in love and engaged. Then she broke it off. His passion is writing and composing music, but in the middle of this still very real depression, even that has taken a back seat.
There's many times when I cry myself to sleep, and I wake up crying. I wake up depressed and just like there's no hope, that there isn't anything that I want to do anymore, that I just want to die. I just would rather be with Jesus, not be in this world, not be a part of this world.
Often people can't even put their finger on any one event that led to their depression, like Marta. She seemed to have everything: a wonderful family, a loving husband, a warm, comfortable home. But she was depressed.
The peak was the beginning of our marriage. I was having to spend a lot of time alone because my husband, being a firefighter, would be gone overnight, and I would find myself so severely depressed that I'd want to turn to alcohol. I'd want to just have, go get a bottle of something, anything, so that I could drown this kind of sorrow, this horrible feeling I couldn't face. So it was the loneliness that I felt, the emptiness that led to the depression.
For years, Marta's depression came and went until she decided to get help. That's when she came here to Turning Point Counseling in Diamond Bar, California. Dr. Peter Robbins and Dr. Kevin Downing head up this counseling center. They also host their own radio program dealing with psychological issues. Today, they're talking about depression.
Is depression a big deal? Isn't it just something that happens to people and it'll go away and it's fine? Is it really that big of a deal?
It's a really big deal. We're talking about 20 million Americans every year suffering from depression. 15% of those are going to make attempts on their lives or at least seriously consider it. That's very severe. That's really strong. So, and in terms of what it does to the workforce, it's millions of dollars because work efficiency, relationships with families, they all decrease, they all go out the window, and of course just being able to enjoy life does not occur when you're depressed.
How sad is depression? And I want to ask this from the ignorant point of view. If I've never been through depression, if I've never experienced it myself, can I really understand how sad, how depressing it is?
It is very sad. Let me say this too. Depression can happen to anybody. And these things, these organic things that I was talking about, can happen to anybody. People in the Bible, you can be very spiritual, and it can happen to you. I think of Moses, Elijah, Jonah. All depressed. All of them said in Scripture, "I want to die. I don't want to live anymore." They all said that.
Claudia has felt those feelings of utter despair most of her adult life. They began right after high school and never really went away. 19 years old and depressed, are you nuts? You're young, you're healthy, you're whole. What could possibly make you depressed at 19 years old?
Nothing. You know, it didn't have to be anything. At that time, what it felt like was I'd pledged a sorority, but I didn't know anybody. It was a good sorority on the campus that I went to, but I didn't have any close friends. None of my friends had gone to college, and I didn't feel a part of that group, even though I was. I didn't feel good enough. You know, I felt uglier and fatter and just not as cool as they were. But it really didn't feel like there was any reason for it.
How would you describe what you felt and what you went through?
I went through a complete gambit of emotions. Everything from numb to, I don't know that I would necessarily say that it was a physical feeling as much as it was emotional and spiritual, but just complete darkness. I mean, everything seemed dark. There was no sense and doing anything and getting up and going to work and producing music. There wasn't joy, there wasn't fulfillment in anything. And it just progressively got worse.
Why? A simple yet very difficult question. Why does somebody get depressed? Psychologists group depression into two general and two specific categories. The two general categories, biological and reactive. The two specific categories, dysthymia and bipolar. First, biological. Here, something happens biologically within the body to thrust someone into depression. Examples are menopause, hypoglycemia, an injury, infection, reaction to drugs or hypothyroidism, among others. A second type of depression is reactive. Here, the victim is reacting to a situation within life. For instance, a loss of a child, a spouse, self-esteem, even loss of a limb. Another category, dysthymia, literally means bad mood. Some doctors call these patients the walking wounded. This depression is long-term, low-grade, and is based in mood or personality.
There's several types of depression. We have organic depressions, okay, which are basically biological depressions. That can be brought on by chemical imbalances in the brain. It can be brought on by illness, by infection, by a bad reaction to medication. It can be brought on by illnesses like hypoglycemia. It can come along after childbirth, postpartum depression. It can come after menopause, what they call involutional melancholia. These are all signs of biological depression where something is going wrong with the chemistry in the body and you're reacting to it. Another depression is what they call dysthymia, which is kind of a low-grade, long-term depression. It comes from a lot of, usually from some traumatic experiences in your early life that you never resolve. And it's not intense that it gets a lot of attention, but it's just kind of a low-grade depression. And people say they're down or they're kind of moody or they're not very happy, and that's kind of a low-grade depression. The third kind of depression is a reactive depression. That's usually when you respond to hurt, as we were talking earlier. You know, to hurt in your life that's not been dealt with over a period of time and starts to take its toll.
And a hurt can be what, a death, a divorce?
Right. They talk about loss being what triggers depression. You lose something. But what the loss does, it hurts you. It breaks your heart, maybe. And it's that unexpressed hurt that says, you know, I don't like that. It hurts me. I don't want you to do that. We can't say that. So we don't say that. We keep it in, and it just starts to fester, starts to build.
Another category is called bipolar depression, often called the manic depressive. This is a fluctuation mood disorder where the patient fluctuates between high good moods and low bad moods.
Yes, I really appreciate that.
How big is it? Jean Andrews is a therapist who hears and deals with all categories of depression.
That's true. Because I find that most people who are depressed have a common thread that runs through that, and that is one of hopelessness laced with helplessness. So I would encourage them and show them that there are ways.
So then depression can manifest itself in a lot of different ways.
Oftentimes depression is a symptom of other problems. Depression is the end road of a journey that starts with pain. Okay, we get hurt. The response to hurt is that we get angry. We don't like it. Now what happens if you don't feel safe or it's okay to express that anger? You turn it inward. Now inward directed anger turns into guilt. You start feeling bad about that. Chronically unexpressed anger turns into depression.
Howard and Lola received some bad news. Howard was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Depression quickly set in for both of them. Had you ever experienced depression in the past?
Not in that form.
So this was a new feeling, a new
This was
thing.
a new feeling because I was into retirement and into a more relaxed state. I thought that would be pretty much free from problems and concerns. Maybe some minor things would come up, but
you have a bad day or a bad week, right?
I thought, oh my goodness, if he dies, what am I going to do? How am I going to face old age without this
Partner.
strong person, you know, who is has really been helping me and has been the wind beneath my wings, as it, says in that song. And so I did feel depressed, and I did cry, but I didn't cry in front of him because as I said, in childhood was taught never to show weakness.
One person's going through a warfare, another person's going through a spiritual battle, one is having a struggle.
Bob is supposed to be the answer man. After all, he's a church pastor. People with problems are supposed to come to him. But after 2 of his boys were born with handicaps and problems in his marriage became overwhelming, Bob realized he didn't have all the answers.
Well, I felt myself changing. Inside, I felt myself changing mentally. And that kind of scared me.
Now, how do you feel yourself change? Are you talking in terms of perspective, your reactions, things you couldn't control? What does that mean, you felt yourself changing mentally?
Well, I know becoming more judgmental and not worrying about it. Things that, especially as a minister, you're supposed to be the caring person.
Right.
And so I would find myself not caring, just whatever if someone come to you with a problem. And I knew months before I would have really been concerned about, if they told me a problem, I'd listen, but I would not probe.
Many times, depression reaches far back into childhood. Tammy had a difficult time growing up. Her father was an alcoholic. Her brother sexually abused her. And her mother was both physically and verbally abusive.
Everything I have grown and developed to be, all my personality, all my relationships, is based on what I was raised with. I question her love now. And I question me. I question the love I am able to give. And so just doubting who I am. And
So how does Mom fit into that, though? As an adult, doubting who you are, feeling worthless, many negative feelings about who you are now as an adult. What happened in hindsight as a child to make you doubt yourself so much?
what happened?
Yeah, specifics.
I trusted lying. I trusted what was good wasn't good.
Okay, can you give me any specifics? What did Mom do?
Well,
What kinds of things?
she is scary. But have you ever seen the movie Mommy Dearest?
Mm-hmm.
You know how she had an image of well-liked by neighbors
Mhm.
and church, and had a kind of a very pretty face and body, and had an esteem, like she was very a neat person.
Uh-huh.
And I thought of her that way when I was young, but at home, she would snap. What was a beautiful woman and loving and kind would turn on you.
It's okay.
That was so scary. But like Mommy Dearest, she would hit. Sorry. And I needed her love so much, and I did everything to please her.
Many in this video have gone into psychotherapy or talk therapy to deal with their depression. Throughout this video, we'll show you actual clips of what a therapy session is like, using 2 of our interviewees.
And I lived for it.
Tammy, you just met,
Intellectually, there didn't seem to be a reason for it.
and Claudia, who's been dealing with depression since her first year after high school. We'll break for a few of those clips now, and when we come back, find out more about the depression of our interviewees, so we can later go on to talk about their healing process.
What else? Right now I'm really struggling with eating. I don't want to feel what I feel on a regular daily basis. It seemed like I didn't have any choice when I was in a crisis. And but now I find myself, you know, when Kirby and I aren't, when I'm not feeling real connected to him, which I'm not a lot of the time, I'll sit and eat all evening long. That's what I did all through my adult life until I married him, and then I was so into him that I quit doing that. And I find myself, doing that again.
What are you finding in terms of the messages from your family that you grew up in? What do they have in terms of an impact on you now? A lot of times what we do is we'll figure out what the family rules were, and those family rules aren't necessarily the spoken rules. A lot of times they're the rules that never get said. They're just what's imposed upon you as a kid.
Well, one of the big ones was real performance oriented in our family.
The whole issue of holding on to the expectations that maybe she's going to give you what you've wanted for so long, for so many years, and that she may not be capable of doing that.
I have to believe that.
You still think she can do it?
I guess
Maybe.
Inside I do, and it makes me angry that I want to cling to something that I know is not good for me. That makes me mad at myself. I want to be free. I'm tired of the doubting myself.
The part of you that wants to hold on to your mom is the child part of you. Okay.
Yeah, I think it
And
is.
that's the magical thinking part of you. It's the thing that, if I just am a good enough little girl, mommy will turn into a princess and give me what I've always wanted. That wonderful relationship. But there's the adult part of you that knows that mommy
It's
is
not
not
true.
capable. It's just not capable.
For everyone in this program, depression was more than a bad mood or blue day. It was something that stuck. What kind of depression was it? Was it, oh, I just don't want to go to class today, I'm in a bad mood?
It wasn't bad mood. It was, it was like being stuck. It was like there was nothing that could make me feel any better. Nothing made it feel better. It was that hopeless feeling that nothing motivated me, nothing cheered me up, nothing fixed it.
You really wanted to not go on anymore at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What happened?
Well, my mind became stuck. I couldn't think about anything that I wanted to do, or I couldn't think about anything from my past or the future that that gave me any sense of hope. I mean, of course I would pray, and of course I would think about heaven, or I would think about the afterlife or something like that. But I was so numb, I was so feelingless that nothing made sense. Eating, going to the restroom, anything, the most mundane things seemed absurd.
Ironically, many people enter therapy for reasons other than depression. They know something's wrong, but they can't label it as depression.
I started hearing things about depression. Anytime I'd hear the word depression, I just feel this horrible sinking inside, because I felt, it was almost like I was drowning. I felt like, I know that's something I have, but I don't want to admit I have it. I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know what to do. I don't even know why it's here. And so I did go to a counselor at one point when my husband said, you know what, you got to get out of bed and we got to go talk to someone. And we did that. The way he would encourage me to get out of bed was to say, go take a shower, get some makeup on, you'll feel better.
Well, my first impression, honestly, was I just thought we'd come here to argue. And, she had her points, I had my points. And I really felt like, man, that's all we're doing is spending our money to come here and argue.
So you really came from marital counseling
It was,
over and above depression.
Yeah, it was.
And what happened? Depression came up in the process of all this for yourself?
Well, it was dealing with my failure, as being able to correct all the problems. Right. It was indirect, it wasn't like I'm depressed, I'm going to have to go get therapy, you know, I'm going to get help because I'm really depressed. I didn't see it, you know, I kept saying, this is not getting me down, this is not getting me down. But everything was changing in my life. Everything was changing.
Are there lines to classify where depression is?
There is an accumulation of symptoms that when you start seeing several of them, that's when you start thinking it's time to get help. You know, when you're eating, when you're not hungry, when you are sleeping, when you're not tired, when you are feeling like you want to escape, when you're not being pursued. You know, those kinds of things are signs that something's not right. You know, this is not on the average what goes on.
I was extremely angry. The people that I've encountered since that time, I am sure that I would even be considered almost like rageaholic. I was extremely angry. I tried to provoke that man into fighting with me, you know, and he wouldn't. He was emotionally, we were extremely emotionally disconnected. There was no area of connection whatsoever. And so that was real frustrating to me. And I was real depressed that I was unhappy in my marriage, but again, I didn't see it as I am just depressed. It was always about something. It was about money. It was about that I didn't love my husband. It was about that I was overweight. There was always a something during that marriage that I could focus it on. There was never a period of there's no reason for this. There was always a reason for it.
What about the outward signs of depression? Here's a list of some symptoms: lack of interest, change in appetite, change in sleep habits, change in movement, guilt, suicidal thoughts. Let's look at them one by one. First, lack of interest.
A lessening of interest in regular, what would be pleasurable activities. If you go to the spa, if you like to go to sports events, whatever's recreational for you, you're not interested in it any longer. It begins to diminish slowly but surely.
Next, change in appetite.
And in general depression, that appetite can go up, it can go down.
Next, change in sleep habits.
And again, in general depression, you can increase your sleeping, you can decrease your sleeping. Later on, when we look into more severe forms of depression, we'll see both appetite and sleeping begin to diminish.
Wow.
It goes that direction. And in more severe forms of depression, you have what's called terminal insomnia. Whereas in more generalized kinds of depression, you have a hard time going to sleep. With terminal insomnia, you wake up 2-3 hours early and you can't get back to sleep.
Change in movement.
You're going to slow down a little bit. You might see some sluggishness. The attention span is not going to be as focused and as concentrated. You might see people actually move slower. Don't pick their feet up quite as much, those kinds of things. There's going to be also another sign is fatigue, where you're just drained. You just don't have any energy.
All the time.
Yeah, it's just out of it all the time.
Another symptom, guilt.
Strangely enough, and people who study depression aren't really sure about this, but there is an overwhelming sense of guilt, and along with that comes a lot of self-punishing kinds of statements, put-downs, those kinds of things.
And in serious cases, suicidal thoughts.
Did you ever feel like I give up? I just want life to stop. Now
Yes.
we're talking 19 years old.
Yeah, I used to think about driving my car, dramatic of course, driving my car off the overpass, you know, and crashing to the bottom.
There's a growing concern in my heart for teenagers and children who are depressed and who find themselves committing suicide more than ever before. Children under 10 are taking their lives as young as 5 and 6 years old. We're also seeing a rise in suicides between ages 10 and 14. It's 100-fold once it gets to that age group. 14 to 20, then you add 10% onto that 100-fold. At one time, suicide in this country was at, I would say, I think it was about 9th ranking in this country as the leading cause of death, and now it's much higher as one of the major leading causes of death in this country, and teenagers are taking the lead. We find also people who are elderly, speaking of a couple that you mentioned before, people like that are making suicide pacts.
Suicide, it's been said, is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But to the person who is deeply depressed, there is nothing temporary about his or her state of mind. Randy was so depressed he didn't want to eat, get out of bed, or go on with life. He thought he'd be better off dead.
A few days after she left, and I drove down to the beach, and I was next to some very high cliffs, and I went there to pray. I don't know that at the time, I mean, I certainly felt like dying, but I don't know that I was planning to take my own life. But when I got to the ocean reminded me of so many other losses in my life, significant losses, that I just began to spiral downward and just thought, well, what am I doing? Why should I? Why should I keep going? For what purpose? Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to get better. This is it. This is life. And it's not worth it. And at that point, I began to look at the rocks below and think about just a couple of steps in the right direction, and I wouldn't feel what I was feeling anymore. And I actually did take a step towards the edge of that cliff, and I slipped. My feet came out from under me. And I began to slide down a ravine before it came to a sheer cliff, a sheer edge. And I caught myself, and it really scared me. And I got up and I ran back to my car, and I don't remember what I did after that.
The source of this depression often reaches far back into childhood. When we come back, we'll talk about more of those childhood issues after we look in on another therapy session in progress.
So that's how really everything, was, is that you had to be the best that you could be always.
And what was the feeling attached to it? If you don't do it, then?
Well, so that's where I really struggle, is I don't have any recollection of feelings. Everything is real intellectualized of my childhood. I know what it was like. With all the therapy I've been in, with the hospital, I know what it's supposed to feel like. I mean, I can tell you how I probably felt, with but I don't remember having feelings. I know that as an adult, I feel like a real failure, that, those negative cognition things, that if I'm not perfect, then I'm an absolute failure.
You've been waiting a long time for your mom to come through for you, and she just can't.
That's why I've separated, because she's still in denial about the things I've told her. I'm trying to be real. I'm trying to integrate that little kid with being adult, but she won't accept them both together.
No.
So it just can't work.
If you grow more mature than your mother, then she can't embrace you. Do you
That's
see?
too bad.
It is. It's a tough thing when we children who grow up exceed our parents' accomplishments. Academically, some of us will get higher educations than our parents, and maybe more profoundly, emotionally, when we have gone further than they have been able to go in terms of emotional health. The feeling is that, do we continue to move forward to the health and leave them behind, abandon them, or do we stay with them and forsake our health? That's where you're at.
I've always been compromising. I've always felt the need to make her happy.
During the break, you saw Tammy talk to Dr. Peter Robbins about her childhood. Sexually abused by her brother, an alcoholic father, and physically and verbally abused by her mother. Tammy had a lot to deal with. Do you see a day when the pain will stop?
It's a very sensitive issue right now. It seems to be the last thing I'm trying to work on, and that's separating from her. I've separated physically, but I can't get her out of my mind. The counselor I'm with now, Peter, says I have to unplug. The analogy he gave was like, I'm in the death room where she's dying. It's like she's brain dead. Yet I won't undo the plug. It's like I'm still connected. And that scares me. It's like, I don't want something that's bad for me. You know, I want to be healthy, I want to be whole, I've got a family, I want to be myself. But I can't disconnect. It's like I need something from her, and I won't let her go.
Yeah.
And I want to be free from that need, so I can be whole.
Side by side, when you look at her grief and how deep that goes, but to hear you say it's because her mother isn't present.
Okay.
And I'm playing devil's advocate here just to get a response. You say, how can that much sadness come from a mother not being present? How can that much depression come from such a seemingly simple thing?
It's what I call crazy-making behavior. It's when you tell somebody that, I like you, come here. You know, this double-binded message that says, come close but stay away. You hug somebody and they say, I'm glad to see you, and you hug them and they freeze up. And you're going, the words are adding up, but the behavior isn't. And you start to wonder and doubt your own ability to test reality. You don't even know what's real. You begin to doubt yourself significantly. And the answer to that is, man, I must be really, really bad. I must be worthless.
Childhood can be an incredibly, and is an incredibly influential time. Some of the studies that have been done show this very clearly, that children who have been abandoned, who have been orphaned early in life, and particularly in decades gone by when these children were put into these warehouse kinds of orphanages where there was very little touch, very little emotional closeness or responsiveness, these children plunge in depression. Some of them literally die of lack of affection and lack of love and care.
Tammy keeps a journal, tracking her recovery from painful childhood memories. One insert is a poem called Mommy's Dolly. In it, she writes, Mommy's dolly wears her image in my mind. Ugly mommy, angry mommy, slap my face, my shoulder, pinch my jaw. Wears her words, stupid, lame brain, ungrateful, selfish, spoiled brat, lazy, sloppy, dumbbell. Mommy's dolly, naughty dolly, wants for mommy to forgive her. Mommy punishes you because she loves you.
I just, one day, started to feel that child and just wrote it out, and in a poem form.
Did it help? Did it do good?
Yeah. Makes me cry every time I read it.
And what was good about writing it out like that? That it actually helped?
So that's, you know, it just verifies that I'm not making things up, that I'm not just storytelling.
Another insert depicts her pain of sexual abuse. Why, at 34 years old, 35, can't you let go?
Beats me.
You have no idea why.
No. It's the child that I've gotten to know and I enjoy. The one that was scared that you couldn't show your feelings when you're young, because it made her fly. You know, she'd get angry. And you had to please her. You had to keep her calm, otherwise she'd be upset.
Yeah.
And so we stuffed feelings, and I think it's that child. I know that child now.
As Tammy has gone on, she has improved drastically. It has been a slow process, but she is getting a handle on her childhood memories that have led to her deep adult depression. Much of that process comes out of psychotherapy or talk therapy. This ends part 1 of this program. In part 2, we'll talk more about psychotherapy or drug therapy or other options available to the depressed person. We'll also have more clips of an actual therapy session in progress. And we'll talk about the Christian who is depressed. Is depression even biblical? All that coming up. Understanding Depression Part 2 next time. Blackness, separating me from the outside world. Stuck. Nothing can fix it. Nothing can make it feel better. Hopelessness. That's how some people describe depression in part 1 of this videotape. They were so depressed, their only option, they thought, was to end their life. Is there any possible hope for the person who is convinced there is no hope?
I was still real miserable, but I became busy.
Claudia wanted to drive her car off a cliff.
Anger and
Becoming more judgmental and not worrying about it.
Bob
Things
was
that,
convinced he was a failure with no hope.
It was, a lot of it was pretend, but it was wonderful.
Tammy
So I
had
think
deep
it's
childhood pain of
that I
all
longed
types of
for.
abuse.
It was just like he opened up a whole new world of insight.
Howard was diagnosed with cancer. Both he and Lola thought life was over.
But I'd always fall right back into it. It was when I started
And
having
Marta
children
didn't even want to get
that
out of
I
bed.
started.
All of these people somehow, some way ended up in therapy. For someone who has never been in therapy, it is a mystery, a place where there are no secrets. What happens in there? For someone who has never been in therapy, it's a very mysterious thing if it doesn't have a negative connotation in the first place. All we know is that you walk in the room and the door closes.
it is, to me, it's the most wonderful thing that I've ever in my entire lifetime experienced. And up until that time, having my children had been the most incredible experience. And they're very separate, you know, but it's right up there, you know, with having a baby.
Why?
Because it's if you have the kind of therapist that I have, you have a place where for the first time maybe in your life, it's okay to feel how you're feeling. Nobody corrects you for how you're feeling. You're not corrected. You're not guided. Well, this is really how you need to start feeling, you know. You're not chastised for being angry. You're not chastised for being mad at God.
But when I started to confront these feelings and had someone else input it, I needed someone else's input. The Bible says that a threefold cord is not easily broken. I only had a one-strand cord, mine. And unless I had input, it was truth to me. Even though it was a lie, it was truth to me. And I needed someone to tell me that it was all right to challenge that thought.
Yeah.
Once I started counseling as an adult, then I was forced into thinking on it all the time. So then it was more frequent.
So
And it
that's
was only about
interesting.
3
So
years ago.
when you started therapy, things were tougher.
You bet they were. They were coming out.
So
They were
then-
being recognized.
Now, is that a good or a bad thing?
It's both. It's bad because it's painful, but it's great because I know it's cleansing, and it gets me on the right road.
So what are you saying? You're saying that because of counseling, you're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel where
Oh,
the day
yeah.
will come where you'll be free? Is that a good word, free?
You bet.
So here we are, about a year after your therapy. Would you label yourself now as depressed?
No, but I definitely do recognize where I feel free is I can recognize when I start falling into it. I feel like depression is something that I can struggle with the rest of my life. But now I can catch it at its early stages. It's not completely gone, but I'm not afraid of it.
And when you catch it, what do you do?
I stop and I say, why is this? Where's this coming from? What am I feeling? What I normally find is it's some kind of insecurity in me that makes me feel that depression come on.
It'll leave you with that dry taste.
Lola and Howard say they're happier now than they've ever been, and there have been a lot of ever-beens. Both are 62 years old. They'll admit now depression was an issue in the past, but they wouldn't admit it then.
Howard's never really been depressed before. Did you notice, was there something that happened within him, within his personality, that you could say before he could say something's wrong?
I think that maybe we were both depressed in earlier years and didn't recognize it. I think that in my upbringing, I was taught not to show any type of weakness, not to show fear, not to show sorrow, or anything. You were to just be strong, stoic, put on a good front.
At one time, when I first started out, I found that persons who had come for the first time felt a little nervous. But since that time, because there's been so much exposure on TV, television, newspapers, magazines, books, that people are beginning to accept the fact that there are problems that have to be addressed in therapy.
Well, I think I struggled trying to put on a happy face and not really experience my feelings.
But did that work? I can't help but say, playing devil's advocate here,
No.
so what? If you didn't put on the happy face, then maybe your depression never came out and it worked and you never had to deal with it.
It didn't really work because I think in raising my children, I was a very controlling mother. And I was not free to really hug and kiss them and be a free mother. I was sort of a robot.
But the main thing is like messages. How many messages came in? Then you want to look for the zero.
Dr. Peter Robbins and Dr. Kevin Downing run Turning Point Counseling Center, a center staffed with 13 therapists. Here they specialize in Christian counseling.
Of the early stage. Well, in the early stage, we're looking at inability.
Their radio program also discusses psychological issues within the Christian arena.
Is it something that someone can just take care of by themselves? Just let me alone and I'll deal with it. Is that a proper response?
Sometimes you can, but I'll tell you, as somebody who works with a lot of people who are depressed, that's a warning signal to me. My red lights go off with that because generally what that means, it means more isolation. And isolation is very, very dangerous in depression. You say, I'm going to do it on my own, I'm tough. You're going to set yourself up possibly and most likely for more severe depression. We are created to be social creatures. We need other people. And if you want to torture a human being, and how we do torture human beings is we put them into solitary confinement and we suffer. We cannot be left alone to our own thoughts and our own loneliness. We need other people.
Let's talk about depression like a basketball.
Okay.
Can you catch a basketball?
Yes.
If I throw a basketball to you, you can catch it.
Right.
What if you weren't looking at me and I threw it at you? Just the same speed, I didn't speed it up, just the same, it hit you, but you didn't see it coming.
Right.
And it could jar you, but you certainly wouldn't catch it.
Right.
You dropped the ball.
Right.
What if I threw 10 basketballs at you at once? How would you do?
One, maybe two.
And if they all kind of came at a surprise, maybe none, because you'd be so startled by all of them that you'd
Right.
just get all flustered.
Right.
What if I just threw one, but as fast as I could at you?
Right.
I mean, it was coming, and you didn't have a clue of the velocity of this ball. It'd floor you.
Right.
Can we say that you're not a good athlete, or that you can't catch a basketball, or what's your problem, you know? Or shouldn't you be able to catch a basketball? What seems to be the problem here? Problem is that sometimes life does that to you. It just throws you too many things that you can't handle. Sometimes one thing that you just had no clue was coming. Sometimes something you knew was coming, but you had no clue how it would hit you.
I'm involved in lay counseling in the church we attend, and I have learned through the process a lot of things in regard to how to be natural, how to feel your feelings.
Lola and Howard first became involved in counseling through their church. Most agree counseling through church is okay, but what about counseling with psychologists? Turning Point is a Christian counseling center. All therapists here are committed Christians, as are most of the clients.
People in the Bible, you can be very spiritual, and it can happen to you. I think of Moses, Elijah, Jonah. All of them said in Scripture, I want to die. I don't want to live anymore. They all said that. These are the guys that were, you know, Moses, he brought Egypt to their knees. He led his people into freedom. But he also had a grumbling group of people complaining about food and manna. And he said, I can't handle it anymore. I don't want to handle it anymore. You know, Elijah, who did all these fantastic things, brought the fire down and killed all these people. And I want to die. Leave me alone. I don't want to do this anymore. It can happen to anybody.
Oh, praise God. Yes, I really appreciate
Jean
that.
Andrews is a therapist who has a passion for Christian therapy. Specifically, she believes all counseling belongs in the Christian arena.
Counseling belongs in the Christian community, in Christian clinics, Christian hospitals, and the Christian church.
How does a Christian therapist incorporate spiritual truths into counseling? We'll break for another therapy session in progress. And when we come back, talk about more serious therapy options, drug therapy and hospitalization. We'll be right back.
And I know it's good for me to unplug, as you talked about before, just unplug and let it die, let that kind of relationship die. Then I'll feel strong enough to maybe even be in her presence without the need.
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
I long for that. I mean, I hope that happens.
There's a, see, for you
I
to let
can't
go of
get
your
there.
mom, yeah, for you to let go of your mom is like to lose yourself. You know, it's to lose your
Right.
sense of your identity. But the Bible talks about if you seek your life, you'll lose
That's
it. If you
right.
give up your life, you'll find it. And I have a suspicion that if you really become free of your past, that you'll be able to return to it and not be affected by it. In fact, now, for the first time, you'll be able to affect it.
Also, I think my trust in God would be better, too. Because she was my first God, so to speak. I believe Jesus is
as
always...
all our parents are.
Yeah.
It's the parable of the lost sheep. There's 99, there's 100 sheep and one of them gets lost. And Jesus goes out to find that
The
sheep.
little nerdly one that wouldn't follow directions,
And is very precious and is valuable, and Jesus will leave all 99 to go find that one because it's so valuable. And you're the sheep. You're that sheep.
I never thought of that.
Dr. Kevin Downing and Claudia talked about her depression in their therapy session. It's obvious Claudia has come a long way in the counseling process. Part of Claudia's process meant hospitalization. Just like the therapy is mysterious, going into an office and closing the door, you went into a hospital.
It was the most wonderful thing. If therapy was wonderful, it was more wonderful
Really?
than therapy.
Now, to be cruel, though, I could say, Claudia, you were in a loony bin?
You betcha.
The neighbor may have said that.
I'm on my
She's
way
in a
down to
loony bin.
aftercare tonight, you know, and I tell all my friends I'm going down to San Diego to see my psycho friends. I mean, we joke about it.
Yeah.
You know.
What was it like?
It was, let's see, for the first time, you are what's important. You know, somebody else, my kids were taken care of, so I was able to just turn that off. And for the first time since it's like you're recreating that little child time where you're what's important. People want to take care of you. You know, you're not having to take care of the children. You're not worrying about what your husband's doing or not doing. You're not worrying about the bills. In a hospital setting, the whole entire focus is on you and your recovery. You are important. We care about you. What do you need? How can we help you? We love you. We're there for you.
You matter.
You matter.
Yeah. Is Claudia typical of what? I don't even know what to ask. Is she a typically depressed person, untypically depressed? Is she a normal person in general, an abnormal person in general? We're talking about someone who has spent time in a hospital for depression. When I look at Claudia, should I think, ooh, loony bin?
No, not at all. She is very typical of the kind of people that come to counseling, the kind of people that don't come to counseling. And in fact, even classic in many ways. She's a very courageous, now I've just met with her very briefly here, but what I gather from her, she's a very, very courageous lady who has really faced her pain. She is the kind of person, particularly the kind of Christian, that knows it right here, the truth of Scripture. There's therefore no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Romans 8:1, for instance. For God so loved the world, a great John 3:16. Right. All the other truths of Scripture that say you have value. Her life experience is one with her, and I talk with her about this. It isn't necessarily that her parents intended evil for her at all. In fact, in many cases, if not most cases, certainly parents don't. But oftentimes there's a breakdown in communication. Nevertheless, she perceived that she was not valued. And so she knows it here, she doesn't experience it here. And there's a big chasm there.
Sometimes psychologists will recommend a psychiatric evaluation for the use of drugs within the therapy process. For the psychologists we've interviewed, it's rare, but it does happen.
What about drugs for depression? A psychiatrist's job is to prescribe drugs to somebody who is having emotional difficulties. We're talking about depression.
Antidepressant medication. And what research has found is that there are abnormal levels of neurotransmitters. That's just a fancy name for the chemicals in your body with depressed people. And what antidepressant medication can do is it can rise those levels back up to a normal level.
What is your opinion of medicine if you're depressed?
I think medicine can be a lifesaver, and it has been a lifesaver, but it can also be grossly abused. Okay? I've read some things where 650,000 prescriptions are written a day for Prozac.
And what is Prozac?
Prozac is a medication that's used for, it's kind of, they call it the wonder drug, because it helps people with anxiety, with depression, with a lot of different mental problems. But it certainly is abused and overly done. It's a quick fix. It masks things that need to be dealt with. It's a great thing to save a life. It's a great thing to give somebody kind of a jump start because they're so low they can't hear you.
Second chance.
But it is not the solution by itself. The real answer is you still got to deal with that hurt.
Sometimes when the patient is so deeply depressed, he or she cannot even bring themselves to talk about their problem, or when suicidal thoughts are present, medication can be used to bring the patient up enough to talk about their problem so the healing process can begin. Once healing does begin, the medication is discontinued. One other type of depressed patient that needs drug therapy is the manic depressive, or now often called bipolar patient. The drug used here is lithium, which is actually a salt compound. It evens out the manic or high states of elation with the depressive or intense periods of low.
Typically, lithium has been used. It's simply a salt compound. It has been used, and for many people, it's just an absolute miracle. It just turns their whole life around.
One final mention, shock therapy, or ECT, electric convolution therapy. The mere mention of it frightens most people due to severe abuses reported in the 40s and 50s. Today, however, shock therapy can go one step beyond drug therapy in altering the neurotransmitters within the brain. The amount of electricity used is less than that to light a 40-watt light bulb for 5 seconds. We mention all of these options not to encourage or endorse them, but so you have a full understanding of what is available to the depressed person today. When we come back, choosing a therapist and words of encouragement to the person who is depressed right now.
And that's like how it felt in my marriage, was finally I found this man that I could be 100% codependent to. I mean, I adored the ground he walked on. I wanted to totally submerge myself into his being. And then I turned around and, you know, just got slapped into the next country, you know, by him. It was like being perfect wasn't good enough.
You're a little girl. If you get a 4.0, you're bad because you've made your sister feel bad. If you get less than a 4.0, you failed because your parents... And again, I want to say, too, that this is not parent bashing because, you know, if we could interview your parents, probably that wasn't their intention.
No.
That's just the way you felt as a kid growing up, and parents and kids miss all the time. If you could talk to that little girl, what would you say to her?
Oh, that is so hard. So that's this is exactly where I am, because see, I still don't like that little girl. To me, that little girl is still really a geek.
But with your mom, it's still too hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you go, no, she's my mom. She needs to do this.
I hate that word, Mom. Because it's so unsettling. It was such a good word when I was young. It was like important to me. And now it's just a big pain.
What do you call her now?
When I write to her in here, sometimes I just start without saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
Claudine.
Call her by her name?
Mm-hmm.
Because in many ways she hasn't been a mom to you.
Best she could, I guess.
She could?
Then there was a feeling like, was she intentionally doing it, or some things,
Mm-hmm.
and other times she was just doing her best, and just in her sickness, that was her best. That is hard to distinguish, and I get confused, because I want to know what was good, and what I should accept as good.
Mm-hmm.
Darkness, hopelessness, despair can be replaced with purpose, hope, and light through a listening ear, therapy, or understanding.
The healing for depression is to talk about it, to open it up, to talk about what's going on in your life, talk about the hurt in your life, in the past. But what we do is we feel it's not okay to talk about the hurt, and so we hide the hurt. The whole thing about being a Christian is that we're people of the light. We're open. We confess. Confession is merely speaking the truth about how we hurt.
If you've tried to work through it and you haven't had any success, then of course the good news is that there are now Christian therapists that can work with you and help you according to your faith.
Is talking about it a very hard thing to do, or is it a simple thing to do for most of the people you see?
It is a very hard thing to do because we feel wrong. And to talk about it is to expose the fact that we're not perfect, or the fact that we made a mistake, or the fact that, that we want something and didn't get it for some reason.
Opening up and talking about it, whether severely depressed or lightly depressed. All who do it say it is hard to do, but they are very glad to have done it.
He saved my life. He was the only person that listened to me, that could tolerate the anger and the pain that I was experiencing.
As a younger person sitting here, I find it really admirable that people that are 60 plus can say, we still have a lot of life to live, and it can get better. We can make a choice for it to get better. Is that general advice that you would give to a senior citizen, a senior person, that if they are feeling depressed, if they are feeling lonely, which you hear so much about for that age group, that there still is a chance, there still is hope? Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. I think that maybe as one gets older, there's maybe a tendency to dwell on problems rather than looking for solutions.
Same question, Ola. What do you think?
Well, I'm planning to live to be 100, and I've got a lot of time left, I think.
40 years.
Yes.
35 years.
And so I just want to encourage other people to not be afraid to delve into their pasts and to get in touch with who they are today. Don't be afraid of it.
You've got to talk to somebody. You've got to find somebody you can talk to, and where they'll listen to you. You can't do it yourself because we've already built up the walls. And if we could talk ourselves out of it, we wouldn't have been in it in the first place. So by virtue of us being depressed proves we can't handle it ourselves. So you've got to find a third party, or or second party, someone you can talk to who will listen.
Is there any hope for the hopeless? The answer is yes. Though for the moment hope seems far away, everyone we talk to ultimately agrees with the truth. Seek, and ye shall find. Are you glad 8 months later that you were unsuccessful?
Yes.
Yes. Why? Would the word be hope? Is there some hope now that it will go away?
Yeah, there's a hope. I don't feel it. Even though I'm talking to you, even though maybe I appear to be somewhat together at this point, I don't feel hope. I don't, I just keep going. I just keep living at this point.
The answer, of course, is the Lord. Giving people hope through their belief system. You know, unless you change a person's attitude, unless they want to change it, unless they want to change their belief system about the situation, then you're not going to change their feelings. And the feelings that we're talking about today are those of depression. So we want to be able to help that person to change.
I'd imagine, though, you have to be careful on who you're seeking out for this counseling.
That's right. And you need to seek out someone, if you're going to go for professional counseling, somebody that is professionally trained, somebody that you have a good referral from.
Right, because there are a lot of professionally trained people out there who are horror stories.
That's right. And there are some people that are not professionally trained that are going to try to give you the image or perspective that they are. And you need to make sure that they are. And generally you can do that by asking about credentials, or just just shopping around, calling up some counseling centers and asking other therapists, hey, what is it that I really need to find? A personal referral is great. Somebody who's actually seen this person and highly recommends them, or another professional.
The greatest source of help, the greatest source of strength, the greatest source of hope that they're going to find is going to be in the Lord. And nobody can do that for you. No counselor, no therapist, no book, no 12-step program. It can't. It won't work without Jesus in it.
Hopelessness, helplessness, and forever dark. But understand there is hope to hold on to. Randy wanted to end his life just a few short months ago. He is still in the deepest, darkest depression, but he is holding on. We will leave you with Randy's words of hope and encouragement to anyone who is experiencing depression.
I might not feel like living, but there is a reason, there is a purpose. And I know that when people have told me that in the past, when they said, well, there's a reason for this, there's a purpose, I just wanted to hit them. I just wanted to swear at them. I just want to say, how do you know? How do you know? What good, what possible good could come out of this? How could anybody receive any good? How could God be happy with this? How could God be glorified in this? And all I can say is that He can. And that somehow and someday you will get beyond the point that you're at right now. And it has nothing to do, it has absolutely nothing to do with how you feel. Because I don't feel anything.